All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 27th, 2020 Board of Selectmen's meeting. A little bit of a late start for those of you that didn't know why we were starting at 7:30. It was due to the elections, early elections, and the ability for them to break down our town, Bob Cutler to break down and allow us to set up. So, Mike, you're here in person for the first time in a while. You want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is anybody here for citizens' input? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening, everyone. Wanted to just report that our numbers in Foxborough as we stand today is that we've had 194 cases since the beginning. We've had 152 people recover. A total of 27 have been lost in the follow-up phase, and we currently have 14 cases that are active as we speak. We have one hospitalization at this point, and the one hospitalization has been on the books now for about 3 weeks. So we're hoping that person recovers soon. But what is interesting, of course, and of course our numbers are a little bit distorted because of the amount of testing that goes on at Gillette Stadium. But we have 16,315 tests that have been performed here in Foxborough, more so than obviously a lot of other communities. We have one death that we've had since the beginning as well, so and that number has stayed pretty consistent, obviously. So I think from hospitalizations from that perspective, we've not seen a significant change, obviously, and overall since the beginning, we've only had, I think, total of like 5 hospitalizations since the beginning of the COVID-19 impact. So we're pleased to see that, generally speaking, folks in Foxborough are still relatively safe. Our numbers are obviously, and also the numbers from Gillette Stadium actually are included in our numbers. So anything that happens at Gillette Stadium from their employee perspective as well as team perspectives is in our numbers. But their numbers are really low at this point too, which is great to see.
So the 14 positive, those numbers are
really folks that are in Foxborough, Foxborough residents.
But that 14 that are positive, 3 or 4 are the ones from the Patriots?
Yeah, well, whoever is positive from the Patriots and the team at this point in time would be included in those numbers.
So it's not just Foxborough residents, it's...
Right.
It's anybody gets tested in Foxborough?
Right, it's because Foxborough's, because Gillette Stadium's tests, all the numbers go to the Gillette Stadium number. Okay. All right, so that's the reason why. It's not generally the rule, but it is in this case.
So like right now, CVS here is testing. So if somebody from Mansfield gets tested in Foxborough and is positive, does that show up as a positive Foxborough number?
No, because what they're doing, correct me if I'm wrong, they're using one Patriot Place as their address.
Right.
The players.
For all, yeah, that's right.
For everybody up at the stadium.
Right.
As their address.
Right. Yeah, for the testing purposes, that's correct. But it's not generally the case for anyone else.
Okay.
All right. So, and that is right now, and of course the big concern is that we're heading into colder weather. This week is going to be, we're going to start seeing, we may even see some snow on Friday. I don't want to say that too loud. But obviously, we're heading into a new phase of this process. Numbers across the state are starting to pick up. So we are not one of the hot communities, so to speak, at this point, so we're hoping it stays that way, and we're hoping that everyone continues to be vigilant in their efforts to try and keep us safe as much as possible. So we do continue to see positive indications that a vaccine is going to be developed hopefully by the end of the year, maybe into early next year, but it looks like I've heard from several different resources that there is very, very positive developments in that area, so we'll hopefully see something that will help us in that direction. Obviously, statewide, the numbers are ticking up, and we're up, but yet the hospitalization numbers are ticking up a little bit, but not nearly as significantly as it was in the first phase. So I think it's important to note that while we may see more tests here, and we may see more positive determinations, we also are probably one of the most heavily tested states in the Commonwealth, in the country. So I think that's also good to report that we are doing a better job in that particular area. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We have a joint meeting with the Foxborough Housing Authority, but that was posted for a 7:45 start, so is Jess on, or should we?
Don't see her yet.
We're just checking to see if Jess Enos with the KRAFT group is zoomed in with us yet.
Here she is.
Hey, Jess. Jess, can you hear us?
Okay.
Can you hear us, Jess?
Can you hear us, Jess?
I can. Can you
There
hear
you
me?
go. There you go. All right, great.
Hey, Jess, do you mind being bumped up a little earlier?
No, not at all. Lindsay's there, right? Yes, I see her.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
So,
Perfect. No
who's
problem
running
at
it?
all.
Okay, so we've got the KRAFT group for a temporary entertainment license.
Are you making a
So thank
presentation?
you.
Yeah, Jess
for-
is running
oh,
the show.
sorry.
I'm Lindsay Cuniff. I'm with Craft Sports and Entertainment, but Jess is starting us off.
Okay.
Okay.
So thank you for allowing me to zoom in. I appreciate it. I apologize in advance for any hiccups during this presentation. I thoroughly appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to present remotely. So I'll just dive into the application itself. Magic of Lights is the name of the event. It's a drive-through holiday light display, and it's scheduled to run at the stadium from November 13th through January 2nd. So your license application shows November 10th through January 10th, and that's to allow a little bit of a buffer. That's to allow for some dress rehearsal events on that 10th, 11th, and 12th, and then also to give us a week on the back end in the event of any significant cancellations or delays, or if we need to add a couple of days on the back end of the run. But it's scheduled to run for 51 days, and it runs every single day from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. No days off. It runs on Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Day. It's kind of the purpose of it being a holiday event. So it is running in the same footprint that we used for Jurassic Quest, if you recall back in September when we had the drive-through dinosaur display, but it's running in it's in the same space. It is a much larger footprint though. This track is about 1.5 miles long, and it accommodates over 600 cars at any given time. Same exact concept though, in that you sort of drive through slowly and appreciate the displays. With Jurassic Quest, there was a stop and go element because your presentation was timed up to a Bluetooth, an audio presentation in your vehicle about specific exhibits at specific times. And in this case, it is a Bluetooth audio component that will be restricted entirely to your vehicle. There's no exterior sound with this event, but it's just holiday music. So there's no stopping or going or aligning with any individual displays. You're just listening to sort of the ambient sounds as you drive through. Like I said, about 600 vehicles. So for a little bit of perspective, at its largest, this event actually existed pre-pandemic. It's been operating for years before, but it obviously just aligns with exactly with what we're seeing people are looking for entertainment right now, which is a safe, isolated experience outside of the house. And that's exactly what this is going to provide. So in the past, at their largest scale, they do about 60,000 vehicles over the course of an entire run. We went on pre-sale and the demand was incredible. We did about 47,000 pre-sale tickets. So we hit pause, delayed the public on sale, And we actually flew the entire Magic of Lights team out to the stadium last week to do a kind of a complete reworking of the operation, because now knowing that we saw this incredible uptick in sales, this great response from the market, we wanted to make sure that what we set up and what we're executing can handle the market demand and without putting any additional stress on any of our neighbors. So they came out, kind of reworked what the display itself looked like, the arrival profile, how we'll be holding vehicles where, and as you can imagine, there's a really extensive staging operation. So in addition to the 600 vehicles that can be out on that course at any time, there's at least another 500 spaces in which we'll be queuing vehicles up so that they're never stuck on Route 1. It's never spidering out into the community. They're coming off of Route 1 quickly and sort of being tidily lined up, kind of like a good Disney ride. So with that being said, I don't want to talk too much. If you guys have some individual questions, or just backing up for a little bit of perspective that I think is probably important, is Jurassic Quest was 43,000 vehicles over the course of only 18 days. This is going to be closer to between 50 and 60,000 vehicles, but over the course of 51 days flown. So if there are any, if I missed anything, Lindsay, I don't know if you want to chime in, or if there are any questions, I'm happy to discuss it more.
Yeah, so we actually have a robust communication plan in place that we're going to communicate with those buyers. So not only through email blasts, which will obviously give information early to those buyers, but also through our social media pages. So Facebook specifically, we saw a huge response, thousands of people who reached out to us about the event. And as Jess mentioned, we obviously had to push that on-sale date back. And fans, they flocked to Facebook. They were asking questions, getting their information from there. So we find that Facebook is going to be a huge asset to us to get information out in real time to those buyers.
When you purchase these tickets, do you purchase it for like this coming Saturday night, or is it purchase the ticket and go whenever you want?
So it's purchase for, it's just a block right now for the pre-sale. The purchase was for any time in that 51-day span. So you didn't have to make a commitment to a time. So we have to be prepared to manage the flow of those pre-sale buyers, not knowing when they'll opt to come. All of the sales from the public on sale on, which the public on sale is scheduled for this upcoming Monday, November 2nd. From then on, you will have to choose a day. At no point will you have to choose a time, but you will have to choose a day. And that will allow us to control the inventory as to like what's available on days where we know we're going to see a big uptick. There'll be significantly less inventory open for our weekend dates in December versus those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays in November.
So it looks like after the initial pre-sale of 47,000, you came up with a plan B and had the company come out. Do you have a plan B if like 42,000 of those people want to go like Thanksgiving weekend? And the only reason I ask, I know as soon as La Salette opens up, it's a madhouse over there. So I think the overflow staging area in the lot is great, but I just want to make sure that you guys have something else with Foxborough Police or the State Police to a what-if plan if everybody shows up at once.
Can I just tag on to that too? So when we had Jurassic Quest in our packet, we had an approval from the police and fire, from Katie. Has anything gone out to police and fire like it did for Jurassic Quest to make sure that?
They've all been.
They've all approved,
yes,
okay.
right.
So we do have a plan. We'll call it we had plan A, we now have plan B and B+. And so we have worked closely with Foxborough as well as with the state police, and they're in communication to make sure that we don't have a situation in which the traffic is unmanageable at any point. But what we do have to our advantage is that those first few days are looking off of, we have all of the historical data too. Backing up, I should have mentioned this earlier. We have all of the historical data for the entry profile for the previous dates from the show in other markets. And so it's another market, so it's not a true apples to apples comparison, but it is really valuable information that we're using to try and figure out what we can anticipate on certain days and at certain times. And because we know those initial weeks, starting on November 13th, are the less desirable. We want to encourage as many fans to come down and sort of use those pre-sale tickets during that first couple of week window. And we've got some pretty creative marketing concepts that we're working through to really incent people to come down. There will be some really compelling reasons to drive people down to the site in the month of November before the traffic gets, we see traffic typically pick up for this event in the other markets it's been in.
So, any other questions? So, again, Plan C, let's say, or Plan D, if there's 600 cars on Thanksgiving and 500 queued, and there's still more cars out on the roadway, what is that plan?
Fortunately, we have nothing but empty space around the site. So we have the ability to spider out into even more of our lots on the P10 side of Route 1. And in the event that something just astronomical happened, we can also spill into the parking that we have on the stadium side. So we have the ability to pull cars off the road in an expeditious manner so that it doesn't become a public issue. And obviously we need to be good neighbors. That is always a priority. So we want to make sure that we're not seeing that creep of traffic into the Foxborough neighborhood. And we're also have a vested interest in the success of Patriot Place. And the worst case scenario for us is for the traffic to be backed up along Route 1 and shoppers and people who are looking to dine and come down to Patriot Place without any knowledge of what's happening with Magic of Lights, get stuck on Route 1 and can't get to Patriot Place. So we are all, it's really, I can't stress enough what a priority it is for us to make sure that we do not create any sort of significant backup on the roadways.
Any further questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, make a motion to approve the temporary entertainment license for the KRAFT Group for the Magic Lights event to be held November 10th, 2020 through January 10th, 2021, from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your presentation, Jess.
Thank you. And again, thank you guys for allowing me to come in via Zoom. I hope to see you in person soon.
And thank you for showing up.
guys.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Happy holidays, right?
Already.
So we got the, up next is Joint Board of Selectmen, Foxborough Housing Authority meeting. So do you guys have to officially,
You can join at the table, or if you want to join from your seats, it's entirely up to you.
Paul wants you
oh,
guys at
Paul
the table.
Paul wants a few people up here on the, Paul's running the show.
Thank you for having us here. Take my mask off a little bit here. Thank you. I am the official chair, Greg Spear, of the Foxborough Housing Authority, and this is a joint meeting to have an appointment of an interim to our Housing Authority. So that's the main intent of our meeting. So I don't know how we go from here.
You need to vote to open your meeting.
Yes. Motion to open.
Make a motion to open the meeting.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. So we're officially open.
Awesome. So do you want to tell us about the temporary or individual that you
Yeah,
have
so the
coming on board?
individual that we'd like to appoint is Bethany, who is right there. And Bethany actually ran for Housing Authority, which is the first time there's been a contested race, and I can't remember. So we're very excited to have Bethany. We're disappointed that John's finally retiring, but Bethany has agreed to serve, and Bethany has a background. She's a registered architect. So with us going hopefully forward with what we're trying to do on Walnut Street and some of the renovation work, it's very fortunate to have a architect that would be on our board. And so I guess we'd like to make it in the form of a motion to have Bethany appointed as an interim, and I believe it is through the term would be
2021, I think.
May 1, 2021.
May 20,
May, it says here, in mine, May 1st.
yeah,
2021.
Does that need to go
2021.
through the election day, or is that okay?
Should go through the
Yeah.
election
Should go
day.
Yeah.
through the election, yeah, I would think. That's really the May, that's May, first week in May,
Yeah.
May 8th typically.
May 8th. So wouldn't that be, the term would be through May 8th,
I would think, yeah,
2021?
Leah brings up a great point.
So the election's usually on a Monday, right? So it'd be the 3rd or the
First-
10th?
First Monday in
For the
May.
3rd.
We'll change it to the 3rd.
Right,
Agreeable to that?
good point.
Okay, yeah. Bethany, you want to come up and just tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe we'll have you guys swap chairs.
Hi, I'm Bethany Robertson. I'm the appointee to this position on the Foxborough Housing Board. I am a registered architect in the state of Massachusetts and have been for the past 3 years. I'm a practicing architect with almost a decade of experience in mostly commercial work, but I also do a lot of volunteer work with Habitat for Humanity's Construction Committee. I do have a dedication to affordable housing in multiple communities, and I'm very excited to be appointed to this board.
Any questions from the board?
And just to clarify, it says Bethany Johnson in here, but that's not the right name.
It's Robertson.
Robertson, yeah, okay. So when we make the motion, we need to make sure we do that correctly. But, you know, I've had the pleasure of getting to know Bethany through the housing production plan, and she's been very active in the coalition, her and her husband. So I'm excited to see someone who's, you know, been taking the time to make the community better, able to serve in this type of role as well.
Round peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
Go figure. All right. Any other further questions?
No.
All right, I guess we'll vote first.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve Bethany Robertson to the Foxborough Housing Authority for a term to end May 3rd, 2021.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Great. Congratulations, Bethany.
Well, they actually, their committee needs to vote as well.
We need to vote too.
Oh,
So
okay.
go ahead.
I make a motion to appoint Bethany to the Foxborough Housing Authority for a term to expire May 3rd, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, too.
Well,
Great.
Wow, all
Thank
these
Now you
votes,
can say
Bethany.
congratulations.
Also, one of the reasons, well, the reason Bethany's coming on board is the retirement of a gentleman that's been on the board for a while. I'm going to, Greg, you've known him probably as long as anybody. Why don't you tell
So
us?
we're honored and disappointed at the same time to have John Mitchell-Moore, who has been on the board for almost 30 years. He's probably one of the longest-serving members of any housing authority anywhere around. And when I was trying to get some history about that, there was no one around that knew the history from the very beginning. I asked Jeffrey if he could help out and some people, so he's kind of served for quite a while, and there's a list of accomplishments that I think you're going to be reading some of them as part of the dedication, but he'll be sorely missed. You know, we were very fortunate to have John as an attorney to also help us with dealings with some of the things with the state and go on some agreements. We're fortunate Kevin is also an attorney who is on our board, and there's been in the last, you know, probably 5 years now, we have some younger people getting on the board, which is encouraging, and I was so kind of blown away that we had a contested race. So it was like, what? So we're very excited. So John's left it in a great area. We're very fortunate. We have Maggie, who is our executive director, and we actually have Eric, who has also been active here in the Housing Authority. He's actually an employee that's really kind of turned, you know, things around. A lot of our buildings are older buildings, you know, which are constant need of repair and, you know, upgrading. And we have a lot of scattered sites, which is a little bit difficult. And there's been some great accomplishments, and we're very excited. Representative Barrows has been instrumental in obtaining land on Walnut Street that we're trying to now get a vision for what we want to do for development for, you know, senior housing, handicap housing, as well as there's even, you know, some comments about some family housing. So the needs out there, that there's so many people that want to stay in Foxborough, and there's a lot of people, especially not just with COVID, but with what's going on with our economy, the elderly people, that we've got a waiting list that now has been taken over by the state that is incredibly long. I get calls all the time for people saying, how do we get into it? So it's definitely, there's a need out there. But John's been serving the longest that we've ever had, and he's really given us a good background in understanding where we need to go, and I feel like the baton is finally being passed as his wife Jane, who is here. It's his second or third retirement, and he's done. He wants to have more time for gardening and everything, and after we do our presentation, we have a little gift for him as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Representative Barrows, come on up, and I don't know if that works.
You mean to try to get me on TV?
No to that. All right.
Turn the microphone right around.
Oh, no, yeah, turn that one around.
That one around.
Thank you.
There you go.
Well, it's truly an honor to recognize John after 34 years. He was appointed by Governor Dukakis.
Half the people here don't know who he is.
I was trying to go back in my mind, going, how many governors ago was that? But he was a pro when he got on, and he was recognized as the guy that really understood. It's very complicated. I served on the Mansfield Housing Authority for 10 years, and John was known as the person that could answer the question. And then to see what he did in 2007 on Baker Street, created some great housing, worked with Mass Housing to get the financing. We were able to get some folks on sewer, and now the work that he did on the Walnut Street North High at 16 acres, which is just phenomenal. And we've been quietly studying and spending. We got some grants to once and for all figure out that intersection on Walnut and 140 commercial. We've got a plan, I think, that we can connect that to sewer, which will allow us a little bit more density to meet the needs of this great group's attempts to get both family and senior housing, and we can get a lot of units in there, which I think will be awesome. The work that the planning department's been doing, I mean, just, it does it. The genesis is John. And he didn't stop when he got the first one done. He went and said, okay, we did that, and now let's go to the next one, and kept going. So he did really a phenomenal job, and with 34 years of that work, you'll leave him quite a legacy behind. So with that, I have a very limited COVID-19 special edition, because we don't get to do this very often. I think it's been 5 months since I've given anyone a citation. It's awesome. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers sincere congratulations to John Mitchell for in recognition of celebrating, and we should celebrate, your 34 years of dedicated service on the town of Foxborough Housing Authority. The entire membership extends the very best wishes and expresses a hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. And in parentheses, you can't retire from anything else. Given today, the 27th of October, at the State House, Boston, Mass., signed by Robert DeLeo, our Speaker, and Jay Barrows, your state representative. So congratulations, Jay. Job well done.
All right, excuse me. Not to be outdone, we also have a citation for you, John. Official citation, Foxboro Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen, on the occasion of the retirement, commends John Micklemore for his 34 years of service to the town of Foxboro Housing Authority. On behalf of the Foxboro Housing Authority and the town of Foxboro, recognition is given to John Micklemore for the outstanding service to the town as an appointed member of the Foxboro Housing Authority, where he served for over 34 years. You served not only as a member, but as chairman for 15 of those years continuously. Your legal background was crucial to the Foxboro Housing Authority's ability to develop senior and affordable housing, as well as additional housing units for Foxboro residents in need. Notable accomplishments during your tenure include Walnut Terrace, sewer connections for Carl Annan and Centennial Court, working through complicated financing with mass housing development that allowed for renovations and additions to the former state hospital buildings, in collaboration with state and local officials to secure 16 acres of future land and development of senior housing off Walnut Street. We are forever grateful that you volunteered your time and talent to our community. Your guidance, hard work, and impact will never be forgotten. The Foxborough Housing Authority and the Board of Selectmen hereby thank you for your many contributions, dedication, and commitment to the town of Foxborough. Our best wishes go with you as you begin your next chapter in your life. This citation is given under the seal of the town of Foxborough this 27th day of October, 2020. Mark Elfman, Chair, Ed O'Leary, Vice Chair, Stephanie McGowan, Clerk, Leah Gibson, and Chris Mitchell.
Thank you. Well, the Housing Authority has a little gift for Joan, too. So it would be sorely missed, and I have to be up front with you. I have to speak to your wife, Jane, to find out what you drink. I figured. It became very obvious when I went to the liquor store, there was a perfect drink that I had in mind for you, and it was Maker's Mark, because you made your mark for the Housing Authority for many years. And I figured, she said you're a bourbon drinker, that would be the perfect thing. So on behalf of the board, thank you so much for your dedicated years. We appreciate all of you.
Pictures? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a few words, even better, yes.
I won't open this up.
I'll watch.
Well, it's just been an honor to serve the town of Foxborough. As Ed knows, and something, I grew up on Woodland Road, and I've lived here all my life. And it's cold. So it's been challenging, and it's going to continue to be a challenge. There's a real need. A lot of it is unseen. There are people, families, 2 or 3 generations living in houses that really they shouldn't be living in that way. There are people who can't afford to live in town without some kind of public housing, and we have to continue to provide that. So I think that we've got a good start. I think the Walnut Street that Jay and I have worked on for 10 years to finally get the state to give it to us. They were going to sell it to us, but we cried enough, so they gave it to us finally. So I think that's going to be a great project, and I think it'll be a great asset to the town. And again, it was a privilege to work not only for the town, but with the great staff that we've had over the years and the great members of the board that we've had over the years. It's been a lot of completely different people that have been very interesting. Jane was saying on the way up, there was one of her members always brought delicious cookies to the meeting, which Sue doesn't do for that anymore. And we had Harold Donnelly was on the board for a long time, and he was interesting to have on the board, to say the least. So, again, it was a pleasure to do this, and thank you very much for the citation.
Thank you. Can we get a picture or two?
Okay.
Where's the bag? Or the citation?
Yeah, you have to have the citation.
Okay.
You guys want to get in the back?
Yes, why?
You have to hold your thing.
You're in the front? We'll get set up here.
And Matt, here we go. Come on up, Matt.
The crew.
The crew.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah.
Come on, Eric.
Come on.
Oh, shoot, no, better than no me. And then right here, please. And move to your right just a little step. No. Great, thank you. Thank you.
All right, stay tuned.
Congratulations, John.
So we're up. There you go.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah, thanks, John, for everything.
Thank
We
you.
have to vote before we end our meeting, don't we?
Yeah, probably.
Very good idea.
Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to second. All in favor? Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Bye, Jake, thank you. All right, next up on our agenda is in the continuation of department updates. This evening, we've got the Finance Department going to give us an update. Keeping in mind that we have our financial summit with the tri-board meeting a week from tomorrow, November 11th. Here in this room at 7 o'clock, we're going to meet with the school committee.
November 4th, right?
What did I say?
11th.
No, November 4th. Meet with the school committee and advisory committee. Obviously, all those committees in here will be way too much for occupancy, so the committee chairs and vice chairs will be here, and everybody else will be coming in via Zoom. So having said that, this is more of an update of your department.
Right.
And George and everybody, welcome for coming tonight, and thank you.
Well, so that nobody hits the panic button, that thing I'm passing out is basically just an overview of the department, and I don't have any intention of going over that line by line. The sad part of this thing is half of this was created way back when we were going to do the Citizens Academy, and just about the night we were going to be on, the COVID-19 thing hit, and that thing's been in the computer now for over 9 months, and I've been trying to find a way to move it, and get to do something with it. So you guys have kind of become the human equivalent of the recycling bin here. So it's something you can use, but it's mostly we're not going to go down that thing as a whole. But to make a long story short. One of the things in the town of Foxborough, you folks have combined all the financial departments under one roof, and with a financial director. The unfortunate part, I mean, there's some good things about that, but the unfortunate part is when you have a person all the time doing most of the talking, people tend to think that it's a one-man operation. Okay, but what you actually got in there is four. And I say four very distinct departments. One is your accounting department, another is the assessing department, and under Paula, unfortunately, she's got the distinction of being both the treasurer and the collector. It's one department here, but in other towns, it's actually two distinct pieces, okay, that they can be separated. All four of which are governed by statutory law, even though there's a finance director. Each of these folks is bound by state law to do certain things. Whether or not I think we should do it this way, there's a state law that says we're doing it this way. So what we've done tonight is we're going to try to put in a nutshell, where are we all right now as we're all speaking. and what's going on. So I'll start off quickly because I don't want to do all the talking. I can go on if you haven't noticed. I can keep things going for a while. So I'm going to try to start off real quick with what Hannah and I are doing right now. And the only reason I'm teaming up with her is because it's recap season. And we're very close right now. We're working on putting the recap together so that in November 13th, you will have the hearing for the tax rate. 17th? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, 17th. You'll have the hearing on the tax rate, which you did last year. And then we'll put that in for, in the tax rate will be set off of that. The only thing that I'm going to throw into this is, one of the interesting things that I don't think anybody knows, but the last time we were in here, just a few nights back with the Finance Committee, we were using a certain format. Well, that's actually a mock-up, if anybody doesn't realize it, to the recap sheet. Our budget process, or at least the one we're using now, is a mock-up of the recap sheet. So everything that we've done for the whole year, we're estimating this, we're taking in this is what the state aid is going to be, this is all really subcomponents of your recap sheet, and that's what you're going to set your tax rate on. The good news is, I think when we were doing the budget this year, we all sat down, Bill and I and everyone, and we came up with a figure of $650,000 for our new growth for 2021. Hannah managed to turn over a few rocks and kept going a little bit, and it ended up being more like $749,000, which is good news. It's an extra 100 coming in. And go from there if you'd like to say something about that.
Well, I don't know if, just to clarify, new growth is something that hasn't been taxed before. So it's subject, to additional taxes. And it's all new construction, houses or commercial buildings, and additions, so anything that hasn't been taxed in the prior year.
So we're very close right now. And again, this is a state situation to set the tax rate. It isn't just us making up our own thing. We got to abide by the state, and probably in the next few weeks prior to and get leading up to that meeting, we should be done with the recap, and hopefully this year we'll go on and without any more incidents like we've had with the COVID thing. The next thing I'll probably throw down to is Marie in the accounting office has been working on a couple of major projects on her own, and I'll let her speak on that.
Okay. So I've been involved with the COVID reimbursements, so that includes FEMA and CARES Act. We applied for $1 million back in June from the CARES Act. Right now we're in the process of applying for another $500,000. Just last week, we pushed through an application for FEMA for $310,000. We've been continuing to track costs, because right now both FEMA and CARES Act are only through the end of December of this year. We're hoping that gets extended, because right now I don't really see the end to any of this. Something else that was distributed to all of you is a packet for ClearGov. So we, prior to the pandemic, we purchased this, it's a cloud-based software. It's used, there's several modules. There's a budget book builder, a budget builder, there's forecasting. They have a benchmarking module. They also have a transparency module. So if you actually go right now as a taxpayer, if you go to cleargov.com, you type in the search bar Foxborough, it will bring you to Foxborough's page where you can enter your the amount of your tax bill, and it will show you exactly where your tax dollars were spent. Internally, we're going to use the software to build our budget. It's all in real time, and it's a collaborative tool. So, everything will be in one place, and like I said, it will be in real time. You'll be able to see, we can invite anyone to collaborate on the budget, so it'll be finance, administration, you guys will have the advisory committee and the department heads, and everything will be in one place, so you won't have all these spreadsheets where you can't read the numbers. And another neat thing is their forecasting module, which allows you, it's based on historical data, and you could forecast out to 20 years from now if you wanted. Same thing with on the budget side. You could create as many versions as you want of the budget. So say if you wanted to, you would take a baseline of the current budget, say you wanted to look at what would it look like if it was 2.5% increase. You could do a 3%, 4%, 5%, and it's all in one place. And what was the other thing? So with all of the FEMA and the CARES Act reimbursements, because we're waiting on those the final reimbursements to come in, we haven't been able to close the books yet. But I do have preliminary numbers. Right now, I can tell you that, and for fiscal year 2020, so the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, there was $1.3 million in unspent budgets that was closed out to free cash. In comparison to the year before, it was less than half of that. So that shows you that since the pandemic started, we were able to curb the spending, and we continue to do that. Also, the free cash, it's estimated to come in at about $3.2 million. And that, once we finalize these reimbursements, we'll be able to close the books and get that certified, and it will be available to use for our FY22 budget.
I might echo, which I know Marie hasn't said too much about, but that CARES Act is very, very tedious. It's the fact that we're getting a lot of what we've got. Marie put together some very nice spreadsheets that aided in the process of getting all this reimbursement coming back, and it isn't a fun project, and we're moving along with it, and it's very tedious, and it's one of those things that nobody really wants to do, and she kind of drew the short straw on that one. But
it was actually a good thing that came out of it. So the state, they're not. It's difficult to get in touch with anyone over at the state. What I did do at the beginning of the summer was, after we got the initial $1 million. We asked department heads, is there anything that you need, that's COVID related? Because there's a long list of categories that the state released, and, your expense has to fall into one of these categories. So for example, the Council on Aging, their van over there right now isn't handicap accessible, and because of COVID, typically your seniors that have trouble getting onto the van would sit on, in the front of the bus. We've had to block off the front of the bus. So back in July, I sent an email to the state and I asked, can we use some of this CARES Act money to purchase a new van for the COA that will be, handicap accessible and will allow them to be spaced out. And funny thing is they actually did respond. They said, yes, you have the green light, get the van. They come out 2 months later saying, no, you can't buy any vehicles with the CARES Act funds. But because I actually had it in writing from them, they made an exception for us. So now we're able to purchase this van.
honest to God, I've been laughing about that. We've been making a joke out of it because that's the first time in some 35 years I've been doing that they got something in writing. And I said it last week, I said all I can picture is the guy hanging up the phone and saying, how many times do I have to tell you, don't put it in writing, whatever. But we got it, and that's really, she finagled the bagel on that one, and that's good for us, so.
Question on the other two grants you mentioned. So the $1 million we got, you mentioned a $500,000 one and a $350,000. Did we get those, or are we applying for
So
those?
the CARES Act, the way they did that was the amount of money that you're eligible for is based on the population. So from the get-go, they said Foxborough is eligible for, to be exact, it's $1,558,000. So back in June was round one. So with the CARES Act, you basically estimate out what your costs, your COVID-related costs are going to be, and they'll give you the money up front. So we got $1 million back in June, and now at the end of this week, I'm applying for the remainder, the $558,000. And with the FEMA, the difference between the two is FEMA is very strict, and in order for you to get FEMA reimbursement, you have to show proof. And I mean, they want copies of checks, they want invoices, they want timesheets, a lot of paperwork.
And it all has to be COVID-related
Yeah.
expenses.
Yeah. And that we submitted last week, so that money should be coming in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Are those all separate from the amounts the school has discussed? So,
Part of it is the school.
okay, so the 1.7 they talked about is the same money that we're
They
talking about?
have gotten other grants. There was one for the school reopening, which I believe was at least $500,000, if not more. I mean, they've applied to a lot of grants that were made available. Out of the CARES Act, from that $1 million, $700,000 of that was for the schools, for their computers, for the
yeah,
remote
yeah.
learning.
I should know if we need to be adding them together if they were
Right,
one, okay.
right.
It's actually more if you add that in.
Yeah, it's more, yeah.
Am I wrong? The population is 15 or so thousand?
17,000.
17,000. You notice that the amount of money is kind of, like close to, 15, 17, and it's 1.5 million. So it's some derivative of how many people are in the town.
So another question, not on that, but on the ClearGov. So we're going to start this budget season using this? And
Yes. Already in place, and we'll begin using it, and then everybody will be on the same page. And even we're talking like it's just for us, but at home, the folks at home can go on and look it up and see as it progresses. So instead of here I'm giving you guys a copy of a budget here, and sometimes you might have gotten the old budget and you're looking at the wrong number or whatever, and then the guy at home doesn't know what they're talking. You can just log on and it's all, everybody's got the same thing all at the same time.
And is there a rollout plan for that, for us, for AdCom, for department heads, for citizens?
We have they had an online training session, and of course, it's one thing to say, it's like using Excel, I can sit down and, you push this button for this and that, and if you don't use it, it's just like a month and a half later, it's gone. So I think we're going to get better with it as everybody begins logging in, and we'll have to share info and what have you until we know what we're doing. But there was already, what was it, how many weeks ago did we do it?
Yeah, we had a training for the department heads,
Right.
Which was recorded.
Right.
So I can certainly share that with you
Yeah,
guys.
are there logins that we can have to play around with before the summit, or is that not how it really?
So, yeah, the way it works, so right now, I'm putting the finishing touches on the fiscal year 21 budget, because I'm essentially creating a copy of that budget and creating that FY22 off of that. So the way it works is I add people as collaborators, so you'll get an automated email saying Marie has invited you to collaborate on the FY22 budget. And then you'll log in through that way, and you'll be able to see where we are in the process. So, essentially, finance, we would get together with Bill first, create our version of the budget, then, which will just be a copy of the previous year's budget. It will go out to department heads, they'll put in their requests. And then when it comes to you guys, you'll see, the department requests, and then finance and administration's version of the budget. And you'll be able to approve or adjust. And everything will be in one place, so you'll see all of the backup documents that department heads submitted to us. You'll see charts, tables, and the good thing is it's all in real time. So once you're logged in, that's the most up-to-date version of the budget that we have.
Great.
So Marie, not to get into too much of a budget discussion, because we'll be doing that later, but what are some examples? Did you say there was 1.3 million of unspent budgetary money? Can you give us a couple of examples of where money came back?
Yeah, I don't have
Well,
the
obviously,
stuff
one of
in
the
front
big
me.
ones is is always be health insurance.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, because not only that, we got a good rate because of the mass or whatever.
Yeah.
That we're in. That's always a big one. I believe that the police returned quite a bit in based on the fact that, I mean, you would think that this would have caused a lot of problems with overtime, but because there was no place to go, nobody was out. They all came in, so there was no overtime. You know, so he actually had money to return.
Yeah.
So those are like examples. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd have to go down a list, but there's to
I
come
wasn't
out.
expecting,
Yeah,
like,
What I
if you knew
believe-
ahead of time, I wasn't
yeah.
expecting you have to come up with, tell me, like, exact numbers.
Well, the school was
that'll be
another
budget
one as well.
discussion, yeah.
I think
The school did
200 or
turn back about,
300 or
yeah.
something to that effect, or whatever.
Turn back
So,
money.
you know, but let's say this. I think what is probably a testament to the way that you folks run the town is that Bill asked for a freeze, and nobody really played games. They did what they had to do and returned as much as they could.
Yeah.
And it helped out. It really did. And I mean, it's certainly going to help us this year with the free cash. But, you know, but I think it was, you know, you've got a good group of people out here, and you know, they try, and they did the best they could.
Yeah,
with
no,
it.
that's nice to hear, because between that and
Yes.
what's coming in grants and the CARES Act.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, of course, not just Foxborough, everywhere.
Right, right.
You know, people aren't out spending what
Right,
they were.
right.
I mean, for us, our situation, you know, what was going on at the stadium that, you know, didn't happen at the
Right.
tail end of last year. And I know we don't budget that extra money, but it's nice, you know, the last couple of years, you still, it's hard to not think that, you know, the trend is that
Right.
there has been some nice extra money coming in, and, yeah, it's, like, for me, it's a little bit worrisome that how quick everything may bounce back
Yeah.
up there. So it's just nice to know that we're in good shape closing out last year.
Yeah.
When,
Right.
you know, incoming money was not what it probably, it would have been, so.
We're having a few annoying, what do I want to call it, hesitations in what we've got to do simply because of where we are. Like, she can't close the books.
Yeah.
We know where we are, but it's just, you know, the final step. We can't pull the switch until a couple of things come
Yeah.
through and it's all backed up. But-
Yeah, and for this year, I mean, we have an idea that this could fester again, and we may have shutdowns
Right,
again, so at
right.
least having that in the back of our mind, we can
Right.
maybe be a little more conservative, and if things pop back well, then,
Right.
you know, it'll just, the following year, it'll be good if we follow through, but, yeah, I mean, nobody could have
Right, could
foreseen
have seen
what was
this,
gonna
right.
happen, yeah.
I keep using a joke that I use with my wife when she gets on me about being overweight, and I keep saying I'm in great shape for the shape that I'm in, and so is the town, you know. So
Well, it's everybody, it's not just
Right, right,
Foxborough,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, that's sort of what I was going to bring up. We're not the only community that can't close out their budget. So the state knows that everybody's waiting
same hole, yeah.
for them.
Yes.
And I'm sure the state's probably waiting for the feds.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. And everybody's waiting for everybody else to make a move.
Right.
And so, you know, but at least we can weather the storm maybe better than most. You know, I'm not saying we can hold out forever, but I think from my old stomping grounds, trust me, we're in a lot better shape than some of the places that I was surrounded by before. But now brings me to one last portion, which is our treasury, which we're coming up on a milestone I think it's Monday or Tuesday, the 2nd is, of course, tax day. Now, we've been sitting here for the last 20 minutes talking about all these wonderful things we're rolling out. And unfortunately, when it comes to the treasurer collector, none of the stuff that they're doing is, this is like the stuff nobody wants to do, and that's pay the taxes, okay? But before I let Paula make a quick thing on it, I just wanted to say that from her standpoint, I mean, remember, this is a critical role for the town. And she's had a lot of challenges over the last, I'm not even going to just say this year since the COVID, but really since prior to us getting here, Marie, myself, she's been doing her yeoman's work in short, and not due to anybody's fault. She's on short staff, and yet, with everything, the COVID, we still collected the revenues to the tune of 98%. Things came in, and it was still virtually seamless. And it's something that I know has been grating on her. I mean, she's having a thing, but she's kept us on standing on both feet. So I'll let her talk about the money, where you are with the taxes and what have you, if you'd like. Go from there.
That's about it, George, thank you.
So.
I got nothing. No, basically just the day-to-day stuff is all we're doing. We don't have any fancy new projects or software, but, we're just getting stuff done, collecting taxes, getting checks out every week, doing the payrolls, doing the tax forms, filings, things like that, handling. Just put together retiree open enrollment letters. They get a letter every year saying what the rate's going to be, and we have a little open enrollment just for the Medicare supplements. So things like that. Just getting ready to do the tax bills, the actual taxes once we get certified, and we've already sent out water lien warning letters to people so that hopefully we can avoid leading their water to their taxes. They got a few more weeks, I think, to pay up. And then just trying to get credit cards set up for the Council on Aging. They want to take credit cards. A lot going on. Payroll, setting up a ton of election workers because of all this extra election, stuff that's going on, and the early voting. And so there's a lot going on with payroll every week. We're doing a lot of changes and updates, adding people, taking people off. That's about it.
There's a myriad of moving parts that when you trying to explain, I mean, we could spend a lot longer on each one of these things. I mean, I tend to lean more towards the accounting because that's what I did a long time ago. I was the town accountant. And just the town accountants thing alone, you can go look at an issue of the Mass General Laws. Chapter 44 is a book that thick, just on the rules. And the same holds true with the Treasury and the assessing. So to adequately say, oh, this is everything you do, but it's more just a generalized update as to where we are. Hopefully it kind of gives you something as to...
George, you had mentioned as you started the intro,
Yeah.
Paul, you were able to get 98%, collect 98%. What's the average? Is that?
Oh, we stay right up in the high 90s usually.
Yeah. If you look at it, it's usually, and when I say it's usually, the last year it was me that put it in, but it's in your annual book, the town book there, the one that's glossy, you'll see there's a page that the finance does, and it'll tell you, and if you look for the last couple of years, it's been around 98 to 99%. I think we came in, what did I say, 98.4 or something?
98.4, I think it was.
So it's traveling what it should be, and given what has happened, that's pretty good. I think last week, I think you were behind me when we did the one for the AdCom last week.
Yeah.
One of the things, and again, I hesitate saying it because it sounds very mercenary, and I'm not. It just is what it is. It's nothing inherent to Foxborough, but I think when you're talking about your real estate and your personal property, you have to keep in the back of your mind a lot of real estate. People they have an escrow account, right? Yeah. Because we're first in line. When I say we're, the town is usually first in line if there was going to be somebody coming for the house because of unpaid taxes and bills. So the banks are very concerned about making sure that their asset doesn't go out the window. So I'm not saying everybody's got an escrow account because, some of the older folks that have already done things, they don't do that. But I think you're going to find that a lot of people do. In some cases, it's almost like a necessity. Otherwise, you won't get the loan. So you're kind of covered. There's sort of a bit of an insurance policy in that area, at least in that area. Our biggest issue would be, like, what we have the least control over is, of course, the local receipts, because it's all based upon, extraneous factors that we can't necessarily control, So I think that's pretty good, at least in that, we're solid there. And then the state does seem to be coming in pretty flat with, at least that we didn't lose a lot in that area.
Yeah,
either.
okay, thanks.
So,
Yeah, and can I just make a comment? I am one of those people that, I never mail my taxes or my water bill.
Come in, yeah.
I always come, it's, something, it's nice just to come in, say hello to Paula. Her staff is always very nice, you see them, they're right in the middle of something, and then they see somebody at the window, and, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like staying connected. Foxborough's a small community, it's nice. I mean, the old town hall, it was like, pay your taxes, hey, Bob Cutler, you can wave from there.
Everybody's
So,
in one spot, yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's probably easier for them to, for everything to go to the lockbox and whatever, but, I don't, if there's a lot of people like this, it's just nice to pop in and say hello.
Right.
And, and I know you guys are working hard, and, and it's much appreciated. So, I know sometimes, it's crazy up here, and, but I just want to let you know that the people who are relying on you to do your job appreciate what's going on up here, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Something just struck me because of my background, when you said that you're running open enrollment for the retirees. Maybe that happens in other communities in the municipal world, but, that's certainly not something that I would expect, like treasury or collection to doing for benefits and retirees. Is that something you saw in Concord and Bridgewater, or is that specific? I think it's very specific to an old regime here. And I think we talked about transitioning that out, because you guys are so burdened already, that to me, it really doesn't make sense that that's living in finance.
But unfortunately, that's the only way we can do it right now, because we don't have the capability to do it with anyone else. I mean, and the way it's structured right now, it's a payroll-related function. So we don't have a payroll administrator. We have payroll assistants, but we don't have a payroll administrator that actually runs all those programs.
Well, the retirees is not related to the payroll.
Yeah, when you said retirees, to me, that just stuck out with me as
But
something that
it
was
still,
very
it still functions
Their
through,
benefits
it still functions through
aren't,
treasury,
but the
because it
employee
goes,
benefits are-
it has to go to the Norfolk County Retirement.
In answer to your question, at least from where I was in East Bridgewater, and whether or not it's the right structure or not, oftentimes that's where it resides, is in the Treasury office. A lot of the payroll functions and the retirement functions are run from the Treasury. I suppose you could come up and say, is there a better way of doing it? And maybe there is, but that's usually where you'll see it reside.
We will advise people on their benefits. We do that, and even pension is out of our control. It's in Norfolk County.
Right.
So we don't have a lot of, we can at least tell them where their benefits are coming from, et cetera. But when it comes to, we do provide usually every year, we've done it since I've been here, and for years beyond that, we've always had a session in September where we go through the ability for people to look at different plans and plan offerings. And that's usually run through the HR department and also through.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I remember there was an issue with leaves, with one hand talking to the other, and just the disconnect between the way the two different departments are working. So I thought that was something that we were changing, but if it runs smooth, then that's where we are. It just piqued my curiosity, given some past stuff and, my background, to see it live there was just.
There's typically the retiree stuff, when I was in Concord, that piece was handled by, it was someone in finance administration, not necessarily the treasurer collector, but then the benefit stuff, the health insurance, things like that, that's normally handled by HR, but here it's all under treasury. So you sort of have a non-existing HR department.
Right, within finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it ties over to leaves, and it ties over to a lot of different things, so.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this in an AdCom meeting when we were talking about, I think going back when Randy was still here, he gave us a presentation and kind of similar to what George put here, but kind of what everyone's job was. And like, I know I made a comment that, but it would take some time for somebody to sit down, and because my husband is doing HR on the school part, he says it's kind of bizarre to him that a lot of stuff that goes through Paula and her group is really HR.
Right.
And so, but I think the only way to fix that would be to sit down, and you would have to restructure, because,
Well, you'd have to have,
yeah,
you'd have to have the structure and the people to do it.
yeah. Well, the problem was, we never had an HR director for many, many years. So I think this is how it got done. And then we, and we brought in an HR person, didn't seem to work out. Now, that position has gone from, just instead of being an HR person, to being an HR person / assistant town manager. And then, so there's an assistant, but I still don't think we truly have an HR, no offense, Mike, I know you're doing HR, but I mean, someone who's just HR. And so I think, and the only way to correct that is somehow at some point, but then who has the time to now sit down? Everyone's busy, now you're trying to restructure. But, yeah, I think there's, there's a little clink in the chain there, but right now, that's just the way it's done. But I'm guessing that's why it was done, because at one point, for many years, there wasn't an HR person here. So I think that's why it went through there.
And then you have the added issue of what Bill just mentioned. I think that he just said something about you need people and what have you. And unfortunately, right now, we're trying to just hold tight with, where we are without
I know,
trying
I'm
to
just thinking
add.
of all that's on Paula's plate, and
Yeah.
then that on top of it too, it sounds like it's a lot. So I thank you for everything you're doing, all of you guys.
It's also fair to say, though, that we do have a part-time HR person that does help with some of those functions. I mean, it's not like it's just all dumped in their lap, but we do help with, with payroll changes, and we do those types of things, or pay plan changes, things of that nature. And there's a lot of different moving parts here that are taking, that were never even really handled. They were completely handled by finance in the past.
Oh, yeah, because there was
nobody else to do it.
there was no
Nobody
HR
else did it.
person.
And just looking at how complicated leaves are right now, like, how many people do we have in the town out on the CARES Act, for example, right now? It's very complicated, it's very time consuming. It's not something your average person that hasn't done this before can figure out, So
those are the challenges we face, is that we're trying to do the best we can with the limited staff that we have. We've talked many, many times about just having a benefits person that just handles all the benefits, retirement, the health insurances, all those different things. That would be a great added assistance to them.
Yeah.
But we're talking about how we can keep the budget intact.
Right.
And so I can't really have that conversation.
Well, and now, like Leah just said with the CARES Act, it's not even, life happens, things happen to people, their families, so you might have somebody that's out on a family leave, but now you're having, multiple, and it's not a problem in one town. You have many towns that the kids are not in school, you have, parents who, what do you do? It's just, it's not, it's been thrown in people's lap. It's not a conscious decision like, I'm going to apply for this job, and what am I going to do with my kids while I'm at work? This is,
Everything's
you're in
upside
place,
down,
and it's just been thrown at people, and so, people just trying to do the best you can in a bad situation.
I keep trying to tell even some of I know that it's wearing on a lot of the staff and what have you, and I keep coming back and I use a lot of analogies, and I said it last week when you were in the thing. I said, if I was in a car and I break down and I don't have my cell phone, I'm in trouble, okay? And I better hope that there's going to be a cruiser floating by to stop and see what I'm doing. On the other hand, if a Mack truck jackknifes in the middle of the highway and this is traffic backed up for 5 miles, okay, you can bet there's going to be fire trucks, bulldozers, and every other thing to get that out of there real quick. So I guess if we hang on, the whole world's upside down right now. So, I think if we hang on, we'll, as long as we're in a better position than most, then we'll try to wait out the storm.
So speaking of all that, I think, I've asked a couple times, because the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
The real story is in the anecdotal, kind of like Steph was asking, well, where's the save, Kind of hearing those stories, what departments are over, what departments are under. Is that something you guys are still getting to, or when are we getting that information?
Over under what?
Yeah,
Like,
what?
Police is over this amount, like the school, remember how I said the school talked about, because of COVID, we're over here, we're under here. Like Council on Aging, do they have extra cleaning, is there extra staff and fire because of quarantine?
Well, I think that I see what you said. Well, keep this in mind, even though it seems like an eternity, we're only in the first quarter of, just starting, we haven't even gotten of this year, okay? So we got a lot of the year left to go, and there's a lot of moves that have to be made. I think the thing that I don't, and I'm sure you know, but maybe the people at home don't know, is when it comes down to, like, if we were starting to run out, the last line of defense that people have is we can't go over in a budget. If you said, I'm giving the accounting office $500,000 for this purpose, I can't spend $700,000 of it. Now, if I begin running out, or I'm beginning to visualize myself running out and saying, wait a minute, something's wrong here. I'm already $450,000 of that five, then we'll have to come back. I'll have to report to Bill. We'll have to come back and say, look, either we're going to get an internal transfer from the finance committee, or we got to go back to a special town meeting and move it again. Right now, it's a little early to figure out.
But I think Leah's question is a different question.
Am I wrong? Oh, okay, I'm sorry if I'm
I've asked
missing.
this a couple different times.
So
Okay,
let me
I
just
don't
address
miss it.
your
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
We just recently got a progression report from Marie on where we are budget-wise, what we spent so far this year. I don't see any reason for any concerns on any budgets right now. The reason why I say that is because even though we have COVID-related expenses, a lot of that has been reimbursable expense.
Yeah.
So we've actually received, in fact, anything that's been in, that we've seen for police, fire, public works, council on aging, any one of those operations have all been reimbursable.
Yeah, all of
under
that has
COVID.
been.
And
yeah.
that's till 12/31.
Unless
Right.
they extend it or
But
another
what if they don't? That's where I think maybe I'm just such a risk-averse person.
Well, the reason why I'm less concerned about that at this point is because we're actually stockpiling additional stuff right now. Now, that's less of an issue for us than it is for schools. Schools are in a different position because they use a lot more of it on a daily basis. So I think that's a bigger question that has to be answered at some point. But I honestly believe, just like everybody else on the staff does, that if we're in that position, everybody else is in that same position. And so so the federal government's gonna have to deal with that issue.
Right.
And I do believe it's gonna happen. It's just unfortunately, it's caught up in politics right now.
And I hate to keep beating that dead horse or whatever, because what I said earlier in there, you're in a better position than my old stomping grounds, which I guess this is what I'm saying is that I know a number of towns that wouldn't be able to weather this storm the way we are. And that's going to increase the urgency on the part of a higher authority to have to step in at some point in time. And hopefully, this again sounds mercenary on my part, but what I'm saying is if enough of the places that I'm thinking about are going over the falls, and we're still way upstream, hopefully somebody will put a dam up before we get there.
But more specifically, I don't know of any departments that are in trouble at this point.
So I guess
any
I'm
trouble.
not looking for the defending the budget or no one's in trouble.
Right.
No.
I'm just looking for like one or two bullets on like, hey, the Council on Aging shut down for 3 months, so we had this save. Or, hey, the library's cleaning has been 30,000 more than last year. Like, just some, because we talk really high level, but I just want a couple bullets. Hey, fire department overtime is X dollars over because a whole company has to quarantine if someone tests positive, or, town hall salaries are over or under because people are out on the CARES Act. Like, I'm just looking for maybe 2 to 3 anecdotal check-in, we talk really high level and, oh, we're in good, we're not here every day, and I just want to get that pulse on.
Well, let me say this, one of the jobs, okay, of the, again, it's one of the duties of the town accountant, I'm not putting this on Marie, but she's making a monthly report. And if indeed something begins to start sailing to the point where it's like, well, wait a minute now, this guy's already used 75% of his budget and we're only a quarter of the way through the year, that raises a red flag, okay? And I think what Bill is trying to say, and by the way, I did misinterpret, I guess I didn't understand what you were talking about.
Yeah, I sent an email. I sent an email that had exactly what I was looking for. I don't know if, like, Murray, did you see that email that's here? I sent an email and it's like, here's the kind of examples of what I'm looking for in each one. So maybe I can send that to you, just so you can have an idea of what we're looking for.
We can give you that information. It's not, there's nothing that's not, that you can't have. That's not an issue for us. It's just that from a general perspective, I don't know of any, there's no alarms going off in any.
Not at this point,
levels.
anyway. And then usually something like that would happen, you would kind of see, like, if, let's say and I'm not picking on, like, the police or the fire, I'm just saying that that's where your overtime would reside or something. And let's say they were way ahead, then you'd kind of start saying, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
And I'll give you a specific example related to fire. Fire did have to take a whole company out, temporarily. And so we had to pay some extra overtime. That's all reimbursable through COVID, through the KRAFT Act.
But we don't know that. So that's the exact example right there that I'm just looking for, like, 2 to 3 bullets for each department. Here's what's going on. I can send you the email. You can see exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so either the KRAFT Act or through FEMA. We can get reimbursement on that. So I've already reviewed that situation with Mike, with the fire chief, and I don't know Santa and Chief Grace has not given me any reason for concern on his end either. He's actually got a few people out, but it's not really COVID related. They're just injury related. So, but operationally, I've not seen any reason for concern. I mean, am I stand to be corrected, Marie, if you've seen anything?
Yeah, no one's reached out to me with any.
It's not even concern, but like Council on Aging, you could say, hey, we got this vehicle coming. It's being reimbursed through CARES. Like, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Like that kind of anecdotal, just, stuff that like citizens or we would care about that lives outside of a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no hidden treasures here or anything like that. We're certainly happy to share that with you if you want.
Yeah, but like I said, just to hear even that there was some savings in certain departments. So, yeah, maybe that's not gonna, okay, so that's for last year's budget, but where the virus has brought us into this year's budget, and, at some point, things opened up a little more and whatever, so it may not be the same as the last 3 or 4 months of last year's budget, but, yeah, I mean, it's just good to know that, it would be nice just to have a couple of, you don't have to come in here with, like 100 examples of whatever, but, as we go into the budget, then I think, then we feel comfortable knowing, where we stand, because there is so much unknown.
The danger, and that's frankly the reason why you have George, you have me, to manage those things, to make sure. If there's already alarms going to go off, I'm going to tell you, because obviously it's my obligation to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is that we sometimes have to be careful about giving out information because it can be easily misinterpreted. Like, for instance, I just saw a report from George today that was talking about, revenues as they're coming in. Well, right now, it looks like the revenues are low, which they would be, because this is not a season where you get a lot of revenues coming in.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but to the naked eye, that would be somebody that would say, oh my God,
That's why we need that anecdotal, the numbers on the spreadsheet don't tell that story. And, this is the first time that the school's able to manage their budget. There might be a swing in the pie this year that they're not able to control, that we've never, fortunately really had to react to.
Well, I think too, though, that you just hit on something that is interesting in that area, and I mean, again, I don't want to be like sounded like I keep pointing out like the police or something, but when we were doing the police budget early last year, prior to March, when everything hit, one of the big issues the chief had at the time in the thing was he was worried about the overtime, all right? I'm not going to be able to handle the overtime because I got all these guys that were out or in the academy. So at that particular point in time, it looked like there was going to be an overage in the thing. Then this weird thing comes out of the, that never happened in the last 100 years or whatever, comes out of nowhere, and suddenly the whole thing switched right back around again, and now he's working on a surplus because everybody's in. So it sometimes when you extrapolate, and I think what Bill is saying is that we want to be careful because we don't want to. I used to get hit, and I learned real early in my career when I was still a bouncing baby boy. I put out some numbers, and I was just saying, well, this is just this is where it is. Well, wait a minute, you said it was going to be $50,000, and then well, Jesus, it was supposed to be a guess or an educated guess. I didn't say if I had a turban on, I wouldn't have been there. But sometimes I think that the public, like Bill says, will misinterpret what you're saying, and then, well, everything was good. You said last week everything was good, and no, I'm just saying right now it's traveling this way, but that how do I know that something isn't going to come down and wipe it out? So we have to be careful, I guess.
Yeah, to hold you to numbers. But, and I will say too that it's great to know that we're in better shape than other communities, but for me, I feel like our responsibility is to, a lot of times we're in better shape than other communities. We're lucky in this community that we have funds coming in that other communities don't. So while it sounds great to say we're better, that doesn't give me any comfort. Like I need to, for me to do my job, what I was when I sat on AdCom, or now that sitting on this board, I have to make sure that we're doing good for what Foxborough has done. I can't say, well, we're in better shape, because a lot of times we were in better shape than other communities anyhow. So I'm not throwing that back at you, George, because you use that as an example.
Right.
But we have to make sure that we're good for Foxborough.
We've actually had that conversation, because George is not used to that situation here. And I said, look, you got to understand something. Well, that may be good based on what you've used to seeing in East Bridgewater.
Right.
I will tell you.
Throwing that back in your
No, but it's actually it's a fair point that the reality is that we're used to having it set it at a certain level, and that we don't like to really go below a certain level.
Yeah.
So the reality, the point that I think we're all trying to drive home with you is that we're here to manage it, to make sure it stays that way.
Right.
And neither one of us have any interest in making sure it goes off the rails.
Yeah.
So, but I think that the key thing though is that I think you're going to probably see more information this year than you've probably seen ever previously done, because of the information that we're generating now in a different format.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to ask that you be a little bit more patient, because you're going to see this was not designed to be a numbers meeting. This was designed to be, this is what we do, who's responsible for what, and let's get into the numbers. We can talk about numbers next week, and then we can also talk about what you're looking for specifically, because we can give you almost any report you want now, but again, my concern is that we give you information so that you will fully understand the information before we share it with anyone else, because we want to make sure that you have the full picture. And that's really the key.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot. I asked this question last week, and you said it's great George will be here and he'll be able to answer just that. So that's why I brought it up again. Right. Just kind of looking for that. Because, to be honest, we haven't seen, maybe Doc has seen it, but we haven't seen any numbers at all, and we're just in a crazy time.
Right, well, so we, again, the whole purpose of next week's meeting is to show you numbers.
Yep.
So, and that's what we plan to do. So I didn't think we were going to talk about that tonight, so if that's on me, it's on me. But I would just want to say that tonight was more preparation to show you what we're going to be talking about next week. And quite honestly, the numbers next week, without any reservation, are going to be lower than we've probably ever seen in the past in recent memory, in terms of what we're going to do. And certainly our budget projections are going to be reflected in that.
And I hope for us to have a meaningful discussion. We get something in advance of the meeting. So when you have 3 boards come together, if everyone's seeing it for the first time in that meeting, it's not necessarily the best use of our time, letting us digest that a little bit and come up with questions in advance of that summit, I personally think will be the best use of time for all three boards.
I personally think it's better to see the information collectively for the first time, and then you can talk about it at a subsequent meeting. Because I think if you all see it at the same time, you'll be in a better position to fully understand the questions and the issues that come up from that. But I think if I give it to you and I don't give it to the AdCom, I don't give it to the school committee, I think it's going to raise questions on their end. So I think if we all see the information together, this is just my perspective now, all right? Then I think you'll be in a better position than then ask good, fruitful questions collectively. So I think next week's, my thought would be, have a meeting next week, go over the numbers, see where we're at, and then have a follow-up meeting after we all digest the numbers.
So I wasn't suggesting that just the Board of Selectmen would see in advance. My suggestion would be that all three boards see in advance. I'm the type of person that likes to review things in advance and kind of do my homework, but that's just me. Other people may not feel that way. I understand your perspective. But when I get a budget that's,
you got to remember, this is just real early,
This is
preliminary.
very early.
Starting the process. It's not the budget. It's
Right.
starting the process of where we're going to go for the next 3 months in the budgetary process. So I understand, and I agree with Bill's perspective, getting there on the 4th, and that's when we start, that's day one of when we go forward with everybody being on the same
so you're going to
page.
see it at that meeting for the first time,
I've
just
never
like
seen it.
no, but even on the 4th too.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't think we're looking to jump ahead. I just think anytime I walk into a meeting, I like to see what we're talking about ahead of time, especially when it's, millions of dollars and, lots of pages, but it sounds like we disagree on that. So,
So what happens typically at this meeting, this is strictly, for the most part, it's an indication, it's a projection as to what we think the numbers are going to be. And so the only other person we've had some preliminary discussions with is Larry Uy from the AdCom, just to kind of give him some perspective on what we plan to do at the next meeting, which he understands, as a process too. So that meeting, I don't think you've been part of the ones, or were you?
We had a financial summit last year, and from
Yeah.
what I understand, this is it. So I didn't even know we weren't going to be there,
Yeah.
that we were zooming in until we were here tonight. So maybe if we could just set out some expectations then, we know what the agenda of the meeting looks like, what the outcome is, what the objectives are, and what our goals are to come out of that meeting. I think it would help everyone.
So the purpose of that meeting, typically, unless you want to change it, is to actually get to the point where we talk about where our revenue projections are, knowing full well that those revenue projections are based on where they are today. And it's going to be, another 12 months, 8 to 10 months before we actually see the actual revenue. Usually longer than that.
The
It takes
process
closer to 18 months.
is a fluid thing where the numbers change week to week, sometimes day by day, depending upon where you are. So, we start, and as I've said to Bill, we might be projecting so much growth now and then decide that, wow, things suddenly have switched and we up it or down it as we're going along and keep adjusting it. So it'll be it's like you say, it's your first volley. Hell, we don't even have the state aid yet from
Maybe
last year.
the meeting
Yeah.
next week has no numbers. I don't know. Maybe it's just to talk about what's our goals as the three committees.
Yeah.
I don't know what that meeting looks like, so that's what I'm just
Yeah.
looking to see.
Well, it's the same meeting we've had, previously, where the three boards get together and listen to what George and his staff has to say for the projections going forward. But it's the first day of the process.
Right, so last year we created that whole new process that was part of their training and their project that they did, and we had that financial summit in this meeting, and it was new, and I thought that was going to carry forward, so.
I think that format can't carry forward because of the COVID situation we're in right now. If you remember last year, we had people from the community
We had all three
coming
committees
in,
here.
Right.
And we have to change that a little bit. We still have to go forward with the process, but we have to pull away from that a little bit this year and stick to sort of what we did in the past, which is the tri-board meeting early in the process, and then going back to our committees and, the Selectmen, AdCom, and school committee and working that stuff out, so.
Okay, yeah, I think if we just understand what the meeting is next week, I think it'll,
Well, and how many people can we have in here? I'll be honest with you, I would like to be here.
I thought it was 25 in the room.
And we're going to have 25, I
Okay.
believe, pretty darn close to that. And I don't think,
Because the advisory committee, I don't know if that's all the time, because last week was the first time they met with a new committee.
11,
but
isn't it?
They had about 5 or 6 that
Oh,
were
on this
that were
TV,
zooming
yeah,
in.
yeah.
What I'd like to know is, can we find out how many people would like to be here?
well, I think we've already discussed it with all the chairmen, and the best way to have the core people we need is the chair, co-chair. So that's 6. Bill, so that's 3 more. We've got Amy, Dr. Bertos,
Bill, you?
Bill Yukna, how many? 4.
These 4.
We're already pushing 18.
Okay.
And we all thought, wasn't my decision, that the rest should zoom in.
Okay. I would respectfully disagree, because I think there's the format of the meeting. There's some people who don't want to be here because of COVID. I would have thought it might have been nice for us to get a bigger place if that was.
We looked into that. We couldn't get a bigger
get one.
venue.
Okay.
Not with one that's televised.
or we could
anything
even
else.
have the Board of Selectmen in one room, the school committee over at the high school, there's ways to do it too. Just, getting creative, I didn't know that until we got here tonight.
Right,
So it's the
because we've
chair,
only worked on it
it's
the
the chair and the
last-
co-chair for each that's gonna be in?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. We've only ironed that out within the last 24, 48 hours. We can't, and we can't have 3 different venues because we don't have the cable access in the 3 different venues. And the school, because we looked into all of this, the school's not letting anybody in the school to do anything in the library. So we couldn't use that as a venue.
We actually thought about that.
Well, for just school committee even, they wouldn't allow them in there?
No,
With
school
Amy?
committee comes here
Meet here.
because of that. So we've discussed that, and again, coming back to the fact that this is just the first day of the budgetary process to get everybody on the same page.
At least to understand where the numbers are.
Correct. I mean, there's certainly going to be some contact back and forth, but it is going to be new for everybody.
Yeah, I think if we send a clear communication with what the expectations of the meeting are, who's attending, and all that, I think at least for me, maybe Steph, I don't know, you, Chris, school committee, just to have everyone understand kind of where we're at, would be a good level set.
We'll
Yeah,
send it out tomorrow.
at least an agenda.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
This is what we're going to cover.
Objectives, goals, next steps, timeline. I think in the past, we had a timeline.
I think we put out
we're gonna
last week,
present that to
there's
me.
a calendar, isn't
Calendar of
there?
events.
Yeah.
So I would,
That goes
I
out
would
right
think,
away.
again, I'm really not trying to be difficult, but just to see that ahead of the meeting, it just seems silly.
I will say any meeting that we have at work, there's always a read ahead, maybe, I don't know.
Say that again, Chris, I'm
There's
sorry.
always a read ahead, like exactly what Leah's saying, like this is, here's everything we're going to discuss. So I'm more of I'd like to see and be able to formulate questions ahead of time.
Yeah, having that many people come together on Zoom, I can't even imagine how we chime in or how we manage that meeting. I think that, us as volunteers even need to see that ahead of time. It's, maybe some people look at it, maybe some people don't. Even if it's things like like if a timeline exists for the process, let's roll it out. Let's see it. Let's let AdCom see it. Let's let us see it. Let's let school committee see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a departure from what we've done in the past, that's all. So, I mean, you're suggesting something that we've completely not done in the past until now, so.
Well, we're in a different year that's unlike any other year, any other
But that works
process.
both ways,
No.
Leah. Because of that,
Right.
we can't have the normal meeting like
Right.
we've had in the past,
Right.
where everybody's been there.
Exactly.
So we're trying to keep it as normal as possible in a situation where, you know, it was Christina that brought up, we can't have more than 20 people. We can't have more than 25, you know, and with all the boards, it's going to be close to 50 people. So, and, yeah, it is an unusual situation, and we're going to have to make it work as best we can with the Zoom situation, and everybody's got to understand.
Yeah, listen, we're not trying to be difficult either, just the expectation suddenly changed tonight, so I didn't know that. So, I mean, I didn't know you wanted stuff ahead of time. I mean, I don't know how prepared we are to give you stuff ahead of time. We could do that, I suppose. So, you know, we could
I mean, I
provide some
remember like, picking
information.
up books in advance of these meetings. Maybe I'm remembering
No,
wrong,
you're
but-
thinking of the budget, the actual budget books themselves. We don't give you that until January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
But
is early.
we're sitting here and there's a lot of confusion about a meeting that's happening next week.
So the budget summit is the process, same process we used last year, same exact one, where we get all three boards together, we talk about where we are with the revenues, what the expectation will be for the next year in terms of preparing a budget. Because then, you know, come November, we'll start actually sending out what the budget will start to look like and what the expectation is of the various departments who are going to be building their budgets, right? And then we need that kind of guidance, all right? So that's the same process we use for ever since I've been here, same exact thing. And now if we, and looks like this year, we're going to actually have more information to provide in a different format that we've done in the past as well.
Yeah, I guess my understanding was I thought that last year we reworked the process and we were improving the process.
Well, what happened in the previous, in last year, well, we did rework the process last year to make sure that everybody was together when we went through the budget discussions and to help develop the budget goals. All right, so that's the purpose of that discussion as well, and we're going to continue to do that. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this first meeting is to roll out the budget revenues, projected revenues, and then let's have a conversation, a follow-up conversation about where the goals should be for the next year. Because I think by doing it that way, everybody is, given the difficult format that we have, it's going to be hard to make sure that everybody hears the same message.
And it's no different than any other year. This is the 5th year since I've been on the board, certainly 6th for
It's 7th for me.
Chris, that this meeting has always happened. It's usually happened later.
Yeah.
It's only been suggested more recently to roll it out earlier and start the
That's
process
exactly right,
earlier.
yeah.
We always had it.
Typically done it towards the end of November.
At end of November, beginning of December. So it's just to bring it in earlier because there were requests to start the process earlier, get
that's what
the
we're doing.
information
Yep,
earlier.
the whole creation of the financial summit.
Which is why I think the budget process, next Wednesday's meeting was scheduled for 2-3 weeks down the road.
Exactly right. it was,
And,
yeah.
you know, Bill and I discussed, no, we got to pull it up.
We've adjusted the schedule to reflect that. So you know, the goal was to hand out the schedule to everyone on the same night, so everybody will have it. I mean, we certainly can hand that out ahead of time, that's easy. But in terms of the actual budget material that we're looking at in terms of projections, I'll have to work with the team tomorrow to see how we can pull that
So
together.
would it be a matter of, you know, are you making the presentation as a,
Well, we were actually working on the actual presentation piece this week. And so, but the actual, so that's why we don't have anything to give you tomorrow, because we still haven't finalized.
Well, one of the other things on that is, if we're here, normal situation, and I know it's not normal, you do what you do, and you hand us this so we can flip through it. You know, if half or over half are sitting at home or wherever on a Zoom, I mean, we're not gonna have anything. So whatever the presentation is that night, I would at least
Well, we
like
can
it.
get that out ahead of time.
Electronic or
Yeah,
something.
we can
Yeah,
do that ahead of time.
yeah, a day or two early, just to be able
Well,
to.
I mean, theoretically, we should be able to get it out to you by Friday of the weekend,
Yeah.
by Friday.
'Cause I'm a much-
Friday,
much
so
more-
is it going to
Actually,
be a
I'd say by
PowerPoint?
Monday, only because
Well, we could
Friday
do-
is,
yeah.
the meeting's next Wednesday,
Yeah.
so
Right.
I would say 2 days before the
Well,
meeting.
can we find out what the real numbers are? Like, so you just said, so all 4 are going to be present?
Just George and I from finance.
Okay. So can we actually, could we find out to see, so Like,
It's not fair to any other board.
But in.
No, I'm not saying just
Even
our-
comfortable with Zoom, like, forget that, like, I'm comfortable with Zoom. Chris may be comfortable with Zoom.
Yeah.
Steph and Ed, I don't know how comfortable you guys are with Zoom. It could even be, something like that if we have to flex.
Well, to the extent that we can get more people to come, that's fine. I mean, but the question is, how do you decide who gets first
No, I'm
dibs?
just saying, could we reach out, like I said, at the advisory committee meeting, there were 5 or 6 of them were on Zoom.
yeah.
I'm guessing because of the COVID.
They'll
because they don't
they'll
want-
probably do
yeah.
the same thing.
Maybe, maybe not, where this is a
Right.
budget, they may want to be there. Could we see, like, same thing too, do you and Mike both have to be here? Could, I'm not trying to kick Mike out of the room either. I'm just thinking, is there a way to get people who might want to be here? And if we run out of spots, I'm not saying the Board of Selectmen get to be here, but not the school committee or whatever. But could we really get the numbers? And, obviously, Marie and George both have to be in the room at the same time. It's not like 2 different presentations. And just see that if there is, I would love to be here. Now, if I can't, I can't. That's fine. But can we see what the real numbers are? And if we can open it up to more people, then do it. And if we can't, we can't. But I just, I get it. I understand it's just different times, whatever. Can Christina take the minutes from in the room? So it opens up for another spot for people who are going to be voting on a budget. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
We're
And if we can't,
we're
we
a long
can't.
ways off from a vote on a budget, though.
No, but the people who are going to be making those decisions,
Yeah.
if they want to
But
be
they're
present,
not-
should be able to be
But they're not
present.
being frozen out of the process. They're,
I understand, I understand that, Doc. Pete, like Leah just
But
said.
really, like, what does vice chair have? I mean, there's really no different role in the budget than anyone else on the board.
just a way to simplify who gets to come and who doesn't. The
Right.
chair, the vice chair.
Yeah, I would just like to see us maximize, if 25 people can be in this room, and you might reach out to school committee and they might say, 3 of them don't really care if they're here or Zooming. Can we reach out to?
We can do that.
Can you
We
reach
can
out
do
to
that.
Larry?
We'll do that.
Reach out to,
We'll do that.
is Tina the, no, who's the chair? Richard is
Yeah,
the chair of the
Richard's the chair
school.
of the chair.
Yeah, and just say, hey, listen,
do
we
that.
have a couple of, I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more comfortable, but.
And just say, we have a couple of board members, can you let us know, does everybody want to participate live? And see what happens, and then we could just utilize the amount of space we have. I'm not asking to, us that we're any more important than anybody else, but it would be nice just to, if somebody does want to be here and we can have them here, it'd be nice. That's all.
And if the meeting schedule exists, please don't save it till next Wednesday.
No, we
communicate
said, we already said we'd send that out to you.
Yeah, because
so
I know,
you'll
like,
have it,
last
yeah.
year I heard about a meeting through AgCom that we hadn't heard about yet.
No, the schedule gets handed out right at the beginning of every process. So it should be, if the AgCom schedules something that we don't know about, then that's.
No, I mean the
that's
joint
also-
meetings. I mean the
Joint
joint
meetings, okay.
meetings.
It's the only joint meeting I know of right now, is this one, so.
Thank you.
Okay, all right,
Thank you. We'll see you all next week.
all righty,
And,
We'll figure it out.
all right. See you later. Thank you.
And to the extent that we can get you information ahead of time, we'll do that.
Thank you so much,
Keep
guys.
collecting that money.
That's the
I
key.
just want to say the classification pamphlet is going to be ready probably a couple of weeks before the meeting.
Yeah.
So we're planning on having that out on the 3rd. So you can look it over. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me or anybody else from my staff.
That's the setting the tax rate.
Yep, for the 17th.
For
meeting
the
on the 17th.
classification hearing, okay?
Yeah, that's one last thing. I know it's getting late, so I don't want to think, but one of the things that, if you guys need something, call the office, even if you don't come in, physically, you don't have to come in. I'm not that you
Yeah,
don't
we can
welcome,
send it
but I mean, if
electronically
you
too.
need something, Call.
Yeah.
Got $100,000 I can borrow?
If I had that, trust me, I wouldn't.
Yeah. The answer is no.
That was the right answer. No, is what I was looking for.
Have a good night.
All right.
Right, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Assistant Town Manager's report.
Sure. So we have 4 positions right now that we have posted and we're recruiting for. And I'll talk first about the most recent one that we just posted on Friday, and that's our building commissioner. As you may know, our building commissioner has been here 4 months, and we feel like we hired the right person. He feels like he came to the right town. Unfortunately, although we did discuss heavily about what his commute would look like, and he assured us that he'd be the first one in the building here every day and the commute wouldn't be a problem, it did become a problem. And he was here at 7 o'clock, an hour and a half before we open every morning. I can verify that. So he gave his notice Friday. We posted the job the same day. And I have had questions. What's the real issue? The real issue was his commute home. So unfortunately, we're losing, someone we think is a good fit for the position, and he's leaving a town that he thinks is a good fit for him. So we're recruiting for that position now. This is, I won't kid anybody, this is a tough recruitment because there aren't a lot of these people out there with the top-level qualifications that we desire. In fact, we're requiring. And the top certification is that which Nick Riccio had, that Bill Caspara had, which is the CBO. Certified Building Official. And that's someone who oversees local building inspectors. So we're not just looking for another local building inspector. We want somebody who can handle the sophistication and complexity of this town and all that entails. That being said, I've had 7 applications come in. We're reviewing them as they come in. This posting will be open until filled. And Mark will be here for a month with us. So I don't know. In fact, I doubt if we'll have that position closed in that, filled in that time. But we'll get close, and we're looking at something in the interim to close that gap, because normally a recruitment, especially of this size, is going to be about 8 weeks. So we're going to have about a 4-week gap to close, and that's something that Bill and I have talked about, and we're working on.
Question, Mike.
Oh, go ahead. As a potential, what's Bill Gaspara doing? I mean,
The answer is no.
He told me no, he told him no.
Yeah, and he made that abundantly clear to us the last time. He said, look, I'm fully retired. He's had other communities reach out to him. He said, I am not coming back. He said, not that I love working with you guys, it's not an issue, but he said, I'll be honest with you, he said, I just want to retire. And I said, that's fine, so I respect that. But what he has agreed to do is, and I've actually, and I totally respect his position on that. He said, look, he said, if you want to run names by me of individuals that you come across in your process, happy to offer you my experience and knowing with these people, because he knows most of them anyways. And there's obviously new ones that come up all the time. But see, the challenge is this. The reason why it's so difficult, there's actually a list of very difficult positions to recruit for. And I'll give you briefly what that list is. Finance director, town manager, health agent, director of public health, which we also have an opening for now, building commissioner, and assessor.
And treasurer collector.
And treasurer collector. And the reason why that is the following. The state requirements for those positions are very limiting, because what's happened is that, except, town managers not necessarily have the same level of requirement, but they do have a lot of experience that's required of the position. The challenge with a building commissioner is that the CBO requirement was always done through using the international building officials requirements. It wasn't until the past 18 months that the state of Massachusetts came up, finally changed the rules and said, we have our own Massachusetts building official certification that you can now use. So unfortunately, the talent pool is not caught up to that. So I've seen probably in half a dozen to 8, 10 communities that are looking for directors of public health right now. I've also seen similar concerns for building commissioners. You do have the ability to actually hire a building official or a building inspector into that role, but you have to give them 18 months to fulfill the obligation of the CBO requirement. I've seen people who have passed 3 out of the 4 tests but couldn't pass the 4th. Then what do you do? All right, so that's why we're very reluctant to hire people unless they have the actual requirement. It puts you, and I've seen people where they've had to actually let people go after 18 months because they couldn't pass the exam. I don't know if we want to put ourselves through that. So I think it's really, to the extent that we can get somebody who has that credential, we're certainly going to do that. If it doesn't, if we don't get somebody that does that, and we're not happy with the talent pool, or the pool of talent, we'll have to maybe look at Plan B. But I prefer not to do that at this point. The gentleman we hired had those credentials. In fact, everyone we've hired into this position have had those credentials. They're great people, but it's a long commute. He decided, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, but you guys discussed that as part of the process.
No, we did. At length, we did. At length, we did.
To
So
me,
it's unfortunate.
And there's no traffic right now with COVID. I
Where
mentioned when I talked.
does he coming
Well,
from?
it comes from Chelmsford. It's an hour commute each way.
Yeah. Mike, is there anybody, when you were in that process, anybody else that you liked that
Very-
maybe hasn't moved on somewhere else?
Sure.
Yeah,
And we've actually received some of those applications.
well, good.
Yeah, so we have some people we can reach back out to, as well as some have already, reached us. I have no doubt that we're gonna have a successful recruitment on this.
Yeah, we'll get
And
some.
the fact that this didn't work out because of distance, doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't hire somebody who's coming from a distance. Our assessor travels every day from the Cape. We have our Human Services and Council Aging Director travels every day from Falmouth. We've got people coming from Central Falls, Warren, Rhode Island, Fall River. I mean, we try to hire local.
Yeah, some people don't mind the commute.
Right.
Just don't mind the commute.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a serious conversation that we have before we're gonna hire somebody who's got to commute 45 minutes or an hour. We want to hire, the best, the brightest that we can afford, the best value for the dollar. This one just didn't happen to work out.
Yeah.
It's been very successful. This we don't feel like we failed, other than we do have to go back and,
You did everything you could do
spend-
on your side.
It just
yeah.
wasn't, it was beyond our control.
It's unfortunate. It's definitely unfortunate.
And hopefully we have everything well documented. I know we've had, with all this turnover we've had and people filling gaps, we've had an issue that I could think of, that's come up where, because of all the handovers. So hopefully we're doing a good job to, going back and documenting that to make it seamless and easy to do business here, for residents and businesses as well with some of the turnover.
That's exactly what we've been doing for the past, couple of years now. We've been documenting our processes and having and developing those so-called truck binders for every department, and having and making sure that people know. And if you ask any of the department heads, any of the staff you saw here tonight, nobody here has any issues with operations here. The issue is, it usually comes down to something that it becomes a personal challenge. And I had a very good conversation with the building official about that, and I get it. I do. Disappointed, but I get it.
Chris, did you have something to?
Yeah, actually, it was, Steph had answered. I was wondering who your number 2 or number 3 was 4 months ago, and go back to them and shorten the time frame.
Yeah, I will be honest with you, though, that the group that we had left was not a group I was truly excited about. Maybe something has happened that's different from them, but whether they have more credentials or whatever the case may be. But the situation that we had was a person who had checked all the right boxes.
Do communities ever share or get creative with that?
Yeah, we've talked about that option as well. And I actually have a couple other positions I'm looking at to maybe do that, because it's getting harder and harder to get those people. And one way to look at this would be maybe to look at a person who could do a couple communities, work with us, and then maybe that gives us ability to hire an additional, inspector that might be able to pick up some of the slack.
Or is there a way to sub this out to, a company and have an extra inspector?
I wish that was the case. There aren't companies that do that.
No?
I wish there was. It would be something I'd look at seriously, but.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you could really do that here, though, because of the demands we have on the venues and stuff like that we have
Yeah.
here. It makes it, because a lot of stuff happens on weekends and during the week that, and at night and stuff like that. So you have to really you gotta have one, that works really good with perhaps an inspector, but not necessarily with your chief building official, because that person still has to respond to, zoning requirements and zoning enforcement issues.
Yeah.
You gotta have somebody that can, go to court if they have to.
Yeah.
Those types of things. So you really need to have that person fully qualified.
We're looking for a top-tier manager, as well as not
Right.
just an inspector.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got to be able to manage your staff, as well as manage contractors, and come from, a project-based background where they can look at a project and see where the failures, as well as just what's in the textbook.
Yeah.
This conversation is not happening just here, I can tell you that. It's happening
No.
several places.
So what other openings you got, Mike?
So before I get into that, I just want to, I guess I just want to capture something that Bill said. He talked about truck binder. So I know, people, the question came up this evening, about benefits administration, those sort of things. I'm not a benefits administrator. I have an assistant part-time who works with the finance department, particularly Paula, in doing that stuff. They get together the annual letter and Jim McGowan, and they put that out, and, that's their specialty. So what do? I do things like truck binder, look at how do we build succession plan for our workforce? Because it's something that Bill has done since he's gotten here. It's something Mary Beth did. This is my specialty, looking at effectiveness and efficiencies in organizations. That's what I've done my entire professional career, and that's what I bring to the table. I'm not your person that's gonna sign people up for their, for their Medicare Advantage plans and stuff like that. I don't wanna be that person. This is what I do. I sit with Bill and I look at, okay, what are the options we have as far as this building commissioner? And we talked this morning as well as yesterday about what are the things, how can we creatively play with this? So is there, can we bring somebody here full-time so that they still have the option to do some part-time work? If we get somebody that can do the management piece and have the CBO, is there a way to also bring in a part-time inspector to, so we look at those pieces. That's somebody a benefits administrator, something a benefits administrator isn't going to do. I'm more of an operations and efficiency effectiveness guy. That's what I do, who's doing human resources. My part of human resources is putting the right people in the jobs so that we can carry out our operational mission of delivering public services. So when police or fire or highway or COA or library or any of our departments have a retirement or have a transfer or whatever, I'm immediately working with that department head to look at, first take that position description and let's shake it up a little bit. Are we getting the most bang for the buck that we can out of what we have, or do we need to modernize it? Somebody's been in that position 10, 20 years and we haven't changed it, okay? That's where we look at effectiveness and efficiency, because we owe the taxpayers, the best value. So if it's costing the same, then we got to be getting, a better value out of it, more, delivering more to the community. That's my job as I see it on the human resources side. I think there are other people that can do the benefit stuff, and they're doing it well. But the other 3 positions that are currently open are our senior youth services librarian, and we're in the final stages of that. In fact, Bill will be meeting this Thursday with our number 1 candidate. And Tree and Park, we're looking to fill 2 positions where we have promoted from within. One person, one of the laborers over to highway laborer, the other over to water. And when I say promotion, this was something that was, that they desired to do. There was no money benefit for them transitioning one to the water tech, 2. He had a long time in Tree and Park, but he went to water tech 2 for very little difference in money. The other one coming from Tree and Park went over to highway laborer because he wanted to do something new. Same exact rate, but he's moving to something new, which creates 2 openings in Tree and Park. And we, well, we're not creating new positions, and we're trying not to fill positions where they're not needed. These are things where we're gonna have a huge reduction in services, not being able to keep up with the level of services we're providing if we don't fill these positions. The last couple are mechanic, and this is another tough fill, actually. Not as tough as the other ones Bill and I described earlier, but getting a mechanic to come to public sector and not stay in private sector or go to private sector is tough. It's the money. So that's, we are, Chris Gallagher and I, along with his team, will be conducting these interviews in the upcoming weeks. And the last one is, Pauline has given us her retirement letter. She'll be retiring on the 1st of January this year. So that's one where, we've taken the job description, asked Pauline, give us your input. What are those things you're doing that aren't captured on your job description? And then I've shaken it up and said, okay, what can we do creatively here to get more for what we're already doing? And then Bill's taking a look at it. And then, tomorrow we're gonna sit down with the chair of the Board of Health and have a discussion about that, about what's the most effective and efficient use of that position that we can put in front of the town. So that's all I've got for.
And that's an interesting position too, because we're at a point in time right now where this is particularly very critical to have the right person in that role, because this won't be the last pandemic we're going to face. I can tell you that right now, just based on all the studies that I've seen recently, that we could be facing more over time. And so we need to be dealing with having a person in town who can really help guide the Board of Health, guide the town, guide our office in providing you and provide the community with the right direction on how we should be handling that. So that's going to be something we're going to be faced with as a challenge. We've got some ideas on how we might best address it, but I'm going to have a good conversation with the chairman of that committee tomorrow and see so we can go from there.
Thank you, Mike. Bill?
All right. Yes. So yeah, just a couple of things. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to Bob Cutler, who has received a COVID response grant in the amount of $7,806 from the Center of Technology and Civic Life. The grant was made available to communities to help offset the cost of providing for safe elections during the pandemic, and they actually received the funding on Friday. So that money's already in the coffers.
How much was that?
$7,806. So congratulations to him on that. Also, just some late-breaking news this week. The small business grants are now available. That was something that was released by the governor this past week, and Paige Duncan has sent word out to a lot of the small businesses to let them know that those grants are now available. We still have money available in the micro enterprise funding for businesses with 5 or fewer employees. Those applications are still being accepted, and we still have some money available for that. So if we can, we'd like to be able to assist businesses to the extent that we can, and we certainly want to make sure the word gets out about that as well. The applications for the Foxborough Cultural Council are open. Applications will be accepted until November 16th. And more information, it will be on the Facebook page, the Foxborough Cultural Council. And so if anybody's interested, they can certainly check that out and also, apply as soon as possible, making sure that you get it in before the November 16th deadline. Voting. So early voting will occur until Friday with between 8:30 and 4 p.m. and 8:30 and 8:30 to Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and then also Friday until 8:30 to 12:30. So if people do want to early vote, they can do that while the town hall is open. Again, 8:30 to 4:30 tomorrow morning, 8:30 to 4 tomorrow, and 8:30 to 4 on Thursday, and 8:30 to 12:30 on Friday. Okay. Election Day, November 3rd. Voting will be at the Ahern School between the hours of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Ballots for absentees or vote by mail must be dropped off at the town hall mail slot, which is in the building here, right on the corner of the building outside this window right here. The mail slot is right there. You must stick it in that before 4:30 before 8 p.m. on Election Day in order for your vote to be counted. So we hope that people will pay close attention to that. So please use the secure drop box for that purpose. Do not drop it off in the mail that day or somewhere else. This is the only place where it could be counted during that period of time. Okay. Mike covered the as far as the openings, the building commissioner and the director of public health. We also, I do want to say thank you to the Foxborough Veteran Services Department for doing the World War II Memorial Corner, which was held last week. That was a very successful event. We had at least 4 of our World War II veterans that were present for that dedication, so we're very, very pleased that they were able to join us. So it's important to note that one member was 99 years old, another one was 97, another was 96, and one was 95, and the guy who was 95 drove himself to the event, which is extraordinary to me. So I want to say congratulations to them and to thank the Veteran Service Department for putting that together.
Bill, on that note, do we know what's planned for 11/11 yet? Does Ellie have any,
It looks like we're going to be doing a virtual event again. I mean, I know that much to the chagrin of some people that we should probably do something live, but I haven't been able to get with Ally on that very point. I'm going to probably speak with her tomorrow about that, only because she had a couple of personal challenges she had to deal with this week. So I had to. I'm going to actually be able to speak with her tomorrow morning. We'll try and catch up on that.
Okay.
But right now, it looks like it's going to be a virtual event at this point.
I saw that she had some flyers on the counter out here, but I didn't have a chance to read them on the way in.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
anything for Selectmen's update?
Just one last thing. Didn't want to forget. Please mark in your calendar November 17th, 11 a.m. It's a Tuesday. I believe it's a Tuesday because we're meeting that night to just set the tax rate that night. Tuesday morning, 11, we're going to cut the ribbon on the new SEMRC facility, which is coming along unbelievably. So it's going to be Tuesday at 11 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Action item?
Okay. So quickly, when I was looking at this, did we say we weren't going to read small ones anymore? Or?
This is a
combined one.
Conglomerated one, so we're going to...
But just to clarify, though, I think the only one we needed to approve was the 360.
Well, we're going to do it as a whole.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
It was submitted as one, I think was broken down by.
It was broken
Yeah.
down, but it was submitted as one.
Yeah.
submitted as
No,
one.
no worries. I when I looked down, I thought we had this
Yeah,
big
we're
discussion
just
about.
wondering, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I had the same question, but.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah.
All right, motion to approve a donation of $50 from Marie and Dave Crimmins in memory of Pam Weber to the Serenading Seniors, a $100 anonymous donation for the Lockbox program and a $360 donation from Friends of Foxborough Seniors for August and September Tai Chi, totaling $510.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. And that's it, we,
No,
we have minutes first. Okay. Should I go right into that? Or
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to approve the June 30th, 2020 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion?
There's one area where a sentence just kind of stops, like it doesn't make sense. It's on the second page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in. It just says "we do," and then it ends. So we just might want to go back and either delete that or figure out what that is.
We'll put it on hold.
No, I think we can approve
Approve
it.
it
Yeah,
pending-
just pending that correction. I think it,
Okay.
I don't think it's anything material.
Okay.
Second page, fifth, like, block down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, it just ends with "we do."
Oh, yes.
And it doesn't, like, it doesn't confirm anything before that we do.
I'll just delete that. I don't think there's anything that.
Just delete "we do."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it might be as simple as that, but where it just
Okay.
trails off.
Okay, great, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.